Yes. That's it. I'll give you a second.
1 second.
All right. Good? Good. First, was in for about an hour, and I'll be coming back in. I have to step out. I'll be back in for another couple hours. Listen, I lived on the front lines with local public health officials during COVID. I think the former governor has a published narrative. We read it. He got paid for it, and we're hearing it repeated ad nauseum again today.
So you're not getting any answers in there right now?
Well, this is an all-day affair, so I would say to you that the governor has been very good at sticking to his narrative. I just think, having lived it, we know firsthand that he and his administration made decisions that once we knew what we knew about COVID and learned more, that ultimately led to lives lost. And I think the families that have lost loved ones deserve not only accountability and transparency, but they deserve a bit of reckoning. And that this ought to be a moment for anyone who held elected office during that window to acknowledge what mistakes were made and work to ensure that there's accountability and that those mistakes aren't repeated.
Are you seeing them push for a public interview?
Well, this is between the committee and the former governor. I don't think there's any reason why this kind of interaction should not be held in public. I think if this were the response to a small structure fire, you would have a full public review afterwards. Having lived in village, county, and state government, the fact that there is not this full public airing and a degree of accountability in a public way, the state legislature didn't do it, and I think that we ought to. The public deserves that. Where that goes is certainly not up to me.
Are you learning anything in this? Just sitting in the time that you've been there, have you learned anything?
I have not yet.
So what is the goal?
Well, this is 5-6 hours of interaction. The goal is very, very, very simply, there were mistakes made. We ought to learn from them, not repeat them. There were decisions made that clearly were not in keeping with science or common sense. And the former governor and his administration issued orders that led to lives put at risk and lives lost. There ought to be accountability. We had a massive response to a public health crisis of our lifetime. The public deserves to know, and those who have lost loved ones deserve to see that transparency, that accountability, and some held accountable for mistakes made.
Curious on your reaction to the Hunter Biden news with the guilty verdict. What are your thoughts?
I think that the judge and others obviously saw error in the prosecution. I think that, quite frankly, this is a bit of a head fake, but he ought to be held accountable. Go ahead, Paul. That's a good question. As you likely know, in 2018, I ran against Andrew Cuomo. We had a very cordial interaction. We talked briefly, and I will say, out of respect, when I lost my father in April of 2020 in isolation in a hospital alone in New York, Governor Cuomo reached out then, and I respect and appreciate that.
Is that the last time you talked to him?
Yeah, probably. It's probably true. Yeah.
Can we get your thoughts on
Then again, so did President Trump reach out. Others did too, but.
on the Garland contempt vote? Have you decided where you're going to land on that?
Oh, I think this administration has sought to run out the clock and avoid responsibility. I do think that the president's video testimony should be handed over to oversight. I don't have to agree or disagree with a president to know that Congress has a responsibility to provide the checks, balances, and oversight, and this administration should comply with it, whether they like it or not. I'll certainly support a contempt vote. Anyone else? Anything?
Is any of the governor's responses defensive?
No, not yet. Listen, I've interacted with him for a very long time. Right now, I will say for the hour I participated, and again, I'll be going back in a few minutes. He is keeping to what you've read about in his published book. There is no variation from that as of yet. Okay? Nice. Bless you. How you doing?